Welcome to Let's Talk Business. I'm your host, James Price. This podcast has been designed to address business pain points, often neglected, but if dealt with correctly, can really enhance business value and performance. I've had over 30 years' experience in business, and I currently own JPO Business Proprietary Limited, a business valuation, advisory, and transaction firm. We help private business clients across Australia and internationally grow, change, and enhance the value of their businesses. Alicia, thanks for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. Are we starting, are we?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to even pronounce your second name, but how about you pronounce it for us?
Xiberras.
Xiberras.
Xiberras. So when I got married, it took me 5 years to learn how to pronounce it.
Have you got to use the hand language with
I'm
it?
Italian, so it comes naturally.
Right, so that's what I want to find out. So whereabouts in Italy is family from?
We're from southern Italy, so Calabria, real working class. Like my grandparents came here with nothing, like literally nothing, and they've built the life we have today. So yeah.
That's neat, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when did they come to Australia?
They migrated here around the 50s.
Yeah.
And it was the old traditional way where my grandma came here. My grandfather came first, and then, they knew each other from the village, and then they put a letter out, and my grandma showed they got married, when she arrived.
Right.
So it's very much that type of story where it's, the foundations, I think, of what Australia is today. I think from the migration, we've had that influx, and I think our cafes and everything, even our interior design, is now influenced by Europe. I feel like,
Of course it is. And it must have been so hard for them coming here. We've got a very comfortable life in Australia, right? But back in those days, given what they were used to, coming to a totally new environment and, without a lot of friends and family, it would have been difficult.
Yeah, and I think one thing fundamentally is that they don't speak about. It was probably the racism. My grandfather actually passed away of asbestos poisoning. So when he came here looking for just a job. Yeah. And unfortunately, the job he got was with James Harding, shoveling the kilns from the asbestos. And he was at the front line, and unfortunately, he lost his life from it. So, they were the battlers. They came here working for peanuts and then it's that, and I think they did get that racism because it was like the new people, the coloured people,
That's right. And they took a lot of risk, didn't they?
Yeah, big risk.
To create a new life.
And leave everything. I couldn't do that now. Pick up and just leave and leave my family, my foundations and,
It's interesting, isn't it? What were they back in Italy? Were they?
My grandfather, my four grandparents, one of them was a shepherd. So he used to, with the goats. Yeah. My other grandma used to pick olives. One other grandma actually used to take care of all her, her family, her younger siblings while her parents went to work. And my other grandfather, I'm not actually quite sure because he was quite older. Yeah. But they had nothing. Like they came from nothing. Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned about the shepherd and the olive picker, right?
Yeah.
Because I heard some history the other day and it went like this. It said one of the biggest revolutions we've had in humanity has been agriculture. Mm-hmm. Because the view was, well, before that we were essentially hunter-gatherers.
Yeah.
And so agriculture in its simplest form, as you've described in Italy and elsewhere, came to pass and then changed the structure of civilization because people were then able to move into villages and towns and establish themselves and have things around them because the whole food system was different to the method of, just going out and finding what you needed to keep alive.
Yeah.
And I guess in a funny sort of way, that's where design comes in, right? Because, you want to live in a place, I guess you wanted to feel a certain way.
Yeah, and around your lifestyle of your family and definitely around that. And that's, people don't realise interior design, that's what it fundamentally is about. It's about the investigation of your lifestyle, whether it's a business or it's your family home. And it's about nurturing that interior to suit your family's needs. Yeah. So I generally say when a client comes and for example, they come to me for initial consultation and they say, I used to do that. I don't want that because I had that in my old house. And I'll always say to them, listen, it's a reset button. You're coming here to reset your lifestyle. Yeah. So let your interior, create a new lifestyle for you, not because you're used to it. I always say, just think about it, the reset. And I always say that button, I pretty much always say that line with reset button over and over again, because they come here with that mentality of what they've brought up with or what they have to do, where I'm like, no, you can make your home how you want to do it, in that way.
So it's almost a change process, right?
Yeah, psychologically as well. So if they want more family life, if they want more family integration, it's definitely like, all right, well, let's make, the family room a real area where they want to hang out with. Even their teenagers, or then they got the area where parents just want to escape their children, so it's just catering to that psychological of what they need to recharge in their own environment.
But they're very practical things. Like if you're sitting with a client, do you find sometimes it's hard to get down to those core things?
No, it's so easy.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I have a gift to really understand my client's lifestyle and how they use it.
So when did you figure out you had that gift?
Well, I think I mentioned this last time in the panel.
Yeah, but I want to hear it again because it just got my heart.
It's so embarrassing that I was like, I used to love Barbies as I did as a young girl. And I'd build the Barbie fun house, and I never got the Barbies out. I'd just build the fun house. And then after a while, and I'm going to tell you a secret, I still did it in high school.
Oh my God.
I think it was just the creativity behind it. And I used to make curtains. And so I think that's what it was about. It wasn't about playing Barbies necessarily. I would have done it probably with Lego. It just happened to be that's the resources I had.
But, not to overcomplicate it, but what were you thinking? Were you thinking as Barbie and thinking about what environment do I want to be in
I was thinking
today?
about who's Barbie today?
Yeah.
What does Barbie do for a profession? How many children does Barbie have? Does she have any pets? And I literally used to think how I think now about accommodating to my client. It's interesting.
Yeah, where did that come from, do you think? I mean, that was at a young age, right? But did you have any grandparents or parents or people around you that were sort of sponsoring that creativity, or is it just part of your making?
I feel like my father I grew up with floor plans because Dad used to dabble in a little bit of like building here and there, but I wouldn't say it. I used to watch a show, Changing Rooms, with Tara Dennis. She was my idol as a kid. And looking back now, you're like, oh God, that interior just didn't work. But I loved that show, and I think I loved the transformation. But I think it just naturally was a gift I was born with.
Yeah.
Because I have employees come now, and it's not something that, they have it, but you have to nurture that creativity. I think some people it comes naturally, where some people have to learn to bring it out and what to do with it. In that way. It's about nurturing it.
But it's very people orientated, the way you describe it, right? When you talk about visiting a client and uncovering what their real sort of needs are. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a key skill, isn't it? I mean, perhaps not just for an interior design business, yeah?
But in any business, I feel like understanding your clientele and your demographic and your client is essential to a successful business. And like, I have a very outgoing, bubbly personality.
No.
Oh, you couldn't tell?
No. Let's do this again. I thought you were calm and relaxed.
No, I was. You can just see I'm like jittery mess. I just growing up with, ADHD, I just had to learn to nurture that.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to make good of a situation that I was dealt with.
Yeah.
And that outgoing confidence, I have to say, really worked in my favor. I'm not afraid to take an opportunity or make an opportunity or manifest an opportunity to happen. And I think that's how my business has grown, because I plant my seeds over the years and I manifest. I grew it from a startup, my business from literally like a stay-at-home mum posting inspiration on interiors to where I am now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Do you think sometimes, going back, I don't want this to be a negative question, but did you take too many opportunities?
Yes, sometimes I did, and I trusted the wrong people for the opportunity. So, for example, someone would approach you that is quite heavy on social media and be like, oh, if you do my interior, I'll post about you. And back then I never thought about contracts. I never thought, and I've been burnt, I was burnt, and that it only makes you stronger, more resilient. And now if ever I collaborate with anyone, there's always a contract. So you learn, to kind of, you learn from your faults and you learn to grow as that, from that way.
But you're a glass half full person, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at that glass,
it's full.
it's full, right? Okay. That wasn't a trick. So there's nothing special in your mind around design. You just look at the glass, but you're looking at the person that's going to use the glass first and 100%. Foremost. Yeah.
So you look about like the taste. So for example, this is how I would think. If they go to drink that glass, what would it taste like? How would the texture be? How would the climate be? Where are they sitting when they drink this glass? That's the type of things I look at. Yeah. I don't just see them drinking a glass of water. Yeah. It's always like I create a scene in my head of them drinking a glass of water. And I didn't know this, but growing up with dyslexia, I didn't realize that seeing things in 3D was a gift that I now nurture.
Wow.
That I didn't, as a kid, I was really bad at maths, really bad at English. Like literally, I barely scraped through.
So you suffered as a result of that?
Yeah, I struggled a lot in school, a lot. I barely scraped through. When I tell you I scraped through, even in TAFE I scraped through to get one because I just couldn't comprehend. I really struggled. But once you learn in style, that's when you excel, I think.
Yeah, so you know yourself.
Yeah,
when did you figure that out?
I figured that out when, for example, like in a business when tax time came. Yeah. And honestly, like I was like shitting myself. Am I allowed to swear in this?
Oh, look.
Yes. You want me to get really comfortable now? So I, like when I got my first BAS, it was the most scariest moment of my life because I didn't know how to decode the information. Yeah. And then I worked out that, for example, you hire what you don't know. So I got a bookkeeper and she, she helped teach me about that. And I had to learn in a way like it was visual. So she explained things. And now, tax time comes around. I'm like, yep, when's it due?
Yeah, move on.
Let's go. You cry about it. You tax bill, but
as long as we're paying it, we're all right.
That's right. So you learn, you learn over the years. And I think this business has taught me to learn what you don't know and learn fast in that way. Yeah. So literally when I started this, I didn't know what I know now.
No.
And I just think, imagine going, when they say go back to high school as like here you are now with your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that moment, like, man, if I went back with the mind I have now, I have an empire.
You'd be unbeatable. But I mean, I think that's, if I look at a range of clients I've had over the years, the really successful clients, business people, are the ones that have they're able to rise up above themselves and ask themselves questions about themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, self-reflect.
But really sort of say, well, are you really good at that? Or, do you need to get some advice on that? So they pressure test themselves and it's a unique skill.
Yeah.
And you've talked through how you've developed that skill.
But the problem with me is I second guess myself sometimes because I overthink.
That's
the
other
negative
side
downfall.
of it. Yeah.
And you have to learn to not listen to yourself sometimes because you're your worst enemy or your hardest critic of yourself.
You can be.
So sometimes, we might show a design to a client, but they may have changed their mind potentially and, try not to walk away. And I think learning in business, you have to just not, as much as it's personal and I love what I do, you have to learn, like if an employee leaves you, if a client just had a bad day and tells you off, you just can't take it personally. You can't take it home. You have to leave it at work.
Yes.
And you have to mentally separate yourself from what happens at work because you get anxiety really badly. And I was going through a stage of that.
Well, this is probably a sexist comment I'm about to make here, but aren't males much better at compartmentalising things than
But we're
females?
Good at multitasking.
Well, that's right. but is that the issue? You're sort of saying, look, I multitask, but I can tend to take things with me. Mm-hmm. And you're reflecting and saying, well, I need to cut and run, leave it in a place and move on.
And I think men are doing, like in high school, guys are like, oh, whatever. Like you said that, but get over it. We're mates the next day. Where girls will like fester, hold grudges. I think in this situation, I had to teach myself to separate and not take things you have to sleep at night. You know what I mean? Like I've had to learn when I first started off on the mistakes I was making because it was affecting my home life. I'd be that stressed out. It was affecting my family. And I was like, I need to change this. So I had to self-reflect, pull myself mentally out of it and say, well, it's affecting the people I love around me. It's affecting my health. You know, how am I going to pull myself out? And the way I did that was I had to actually stop giving clients my personal number.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had to filter it through, for example, everything goes through my studio. So everything's filtered. And that way they catch, like everything's caught at the forefront. I've lost jobs because people don't have my direct number. But I don't feel like at the end of the day, that's my terms. That's you're signing with me. Well, and I don't need to, you know.
And at the end of the day, there's a bigger picture, right? So it sounds like you're happy to lose those jobs to an extent because
I know they'll be mentally draining clients then. If they want your direct number, it means that they want all of you. And I feel like I understand that, but you need to pay me double the amount if you want all of me. Because, you know what I mean? In that way, you've got to separate in that way. But I still give everything I have when I'm at work. I give everything I have. But I think if they want to call you at 11 o'clock at night, there's got to be boundaries in place.
Do you know your value?
100% I do. Yeah, it took me a long time to learn it.
Did it? Did it? So when did you figure it out?
About 3 years ago when I just, what was happening, how can I put it? I knew that my work was really good. I feel like I knew because I felt like I didn't go and seeking or copying other designers. I realised what was happening. Not that it gets to me, but a lot of my designs were getting copied out there.
Is that flattering or difficult?
I find it flattering. I actually think, you know, like, isn't it amazing that I don't need to do that? I can just come up with a design on my own because I don't like to, how can I say, no design's ever repeated in my brand or my industry. Well, what I do. So, I found that as flattering. It used to affect me in the beginning.
Yes.
But now I'm just like, you know what, like everyone's got to start somewhere. But how I see it is those businesses that do that copy any other business, they won't succeed because they have to they can't create things or can't. So when times get tough, how are they going to create ideas to keep up with the demand?
Well, I want to talk about the ideas a little bit more, but that value issue that you identified 3 years ago, if I was to say to you, what is Alicia's value? Not in a monetary sense, but describe it to me. What's so special about it?
I think value is, first and foremost, is that I care about my client, about my business. I genuinely love what I do. And I think that's the value, is that my heart's in it. That's number one. Yeah. I think number two, the value is, I think I've learned to realise, because I am based in Greater Western Sydney and there is this, you know, we can face stigmas at times. I learned to realise when people come to me from all areas to come out here, that's when I learnt that people are coming for the value of my services, not because of where I'm located. So I have to move past that too. That was a big thing that used to affect me, was the stigma. But I'm okay with that now because I'm proud of that. But I feel like, it's about understanding your value, you know, and your worth of what you do and your experience, your years of experience, and what you offer compared to other companies out there.
So, I mean, these are my words, so I don't want to put them in your mouth, but I sensed the mention of Western Sydney was almost like potential intimidation, subtle, right, from people out of Western Sydney. You're in Western Sydney, how could you help me? But it's almost, the value piece is overcoming that to the point where you know your shit. Excuse the language, and you're good at it. And it doesn't matter whether it's Western Sydney or Maroubra or Mona Vale
or Melbourne or Perth.
You mentioned you've just got a client in Perth. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Fremantle, watch out.
Excise taking over Fremantle.
but you know, you've got a quiet confidence, it sounds like, that I know my stuff and I can deliver. And you're going to get something special.
Because you know what it is deep down? It's because as you would do whatever it takes to ensure the client is happy. That's the delivery. So when a client comes to me and then or comes to my business or one of my staff and says, oh, look, Alicia, like I will always say to my girls, the client is always right, no matter what. We just have to understand we're not on the same page. We have to get to that page again and do whatever it takes to make the client happy. But sometimes there comes a limit where, the client's expecting a lot more unrealistic things, and where, for example, you could lose a lot of money out of it. And it comes to a point where you have to just say, look, we have to come to a mutual agreement or an understanding. But I think the delivery is everything.
Yeah.
And the most important thing to me is that my clients walk away going, I would really recommend Alicia because that was an amazing experience.
Yeah,
with
right.
her and her team.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing to me is, you know, creating. And I have clients that come back after 10 years. Like they've built a house and now they've sold and they've come back going, oh, Alicia, we're ready to build again. That's
very rewarding,
everything.
right?
Yeah, 10 years later, like, you know.
And the world's very competitive, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of people offering all sorts of services.
100%.
But they've come back to you.
Yeah, after 10 years. And how many more businesses have opened since then? How they could probably get it at a cheaper rate, but they've come back to me because of the experience that they've had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, I understand that, I mean, I could be wrong here, but I do look at socials a bit.
Yes.
So I understand you've got a veggie patch and you also like cooking.
I do. Wow, you really do look at my socials.
Yeah, I do. Look, they look very tasty food.
Yes, I do love to cook.
Yeah, so why? Yeah, I mean, I do know a few people that are creative in different spaces, and often it's not just food and other things, but they might be into design or photography.
Or fashion.
Or fashion,
or style, or, you know.
So does it just go with the territory? Or?
I think it does because I see it in my own children. Like my 13-year-old will come out with such a perfectly colour-coordinated outfit and I didn't have to fix it. And I'm like, she did that on her own. And I just think she's born with it.
Yeah.
And that's why I know both my children are creative. I can see my little one is constantly, every night we tell each other stories. Like we say, all right, we'll make up a story and, you know. And my little one will come up with the most amazing stories. And it's just, I feel like it's a gift that they're born with and, you know, it's my job as a parent to nurture it.
Yeah.
And, you know, in that way, I just want them to be also street smart because I think being street smart is so important and the integrity of everything. Understanding social people, like socially.
Yeah.
That's important.
What, social interaction?
Yeah, just social intelligence, which I think I do have. I'm very good at reading people and understanding people's emotions and boundaries and, you know, and I think that's a very important skill to have in life.
Yes.
Very important skill.
Yeah. Tricky to bring up young children on the one side to let them explore their creativity, but on the other side to develop, wrong word maybe, disciplines around certain things.
Yeah.
Because, you know, on the one side it's like, how much lead do you want? Go and think.
Yeah, that's right.
You know? But on the other side, you know, think about the structure and approach and how you're managing your relationships, et cetera, et cetera.
100%. And that comes down to, I'm incredibly creative and I have a business. But at the end of the day, my business has to pay bills, has to pay tax, has to pay wages. Like you've also got to run a business. So it comes with general knowledge in life, you know, economics and that's why I'm trying to teach my daughter now, my 13-year-old, about saving, interest rates and, you know, like I try and give her me and my husband try to give her an incentive to work hard, like cut the grass around the house and you'll be paid and put that in your savings and then you could buy a car when you're older. Like we try and teach her that mentality, the backbone of like working hard. Yeah. So I think you also need to work hard with creativity because, you know, you can have a gift, but I think it's a struggle street as well. If you're creative, I feel like, you know, and anyone in the arts industry, it's a hard industry to crack.
It is a hard industry to crack.
Yeah.
And look, you know, I mean, over the years, I've had quite a bit to do with executive chefs of, you know, quite large and successful restaurants, but some that have gone out on their own. And, you know, there's a real polarization. You can be the best chef and have absolute passion for food and what you're producing, but you can make absolutely no money at all.
100%.
Right? Unless you know food economics and how to put a meal on the table that is magnificent.
Or you're working for a high-end restaurant or, you know.
Yeah. So it's a trick to combine the both, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we feel like...
Well, it's like a singer. They could have an amazing voice, but they could just, you know what I mean, like busk on the street as opposed to you got someone being recorded by Sony. Like
rocking up the charts.
Yeah, 100%, you know?
Yeah.
And I think in this situation, it's about who you know and what you know, right? But I'm not saying I got to my, but but I planted the seeds with people many years ago to help my business build where it is today. So I networked heavily. I met, like, for example, I'd see someone on Instagram like, oh, they would be a really good lead for my business. Somehow, I don't know how, I work away where I become friends with them. Don't ask me. They could be in Victoria, but for some, I could manifest a way to become friends with these people. And I know that they'll bring leads to my business. But it's just interesting. I think, yeah, it's what you know and who you know.
But that networking piece is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it doesn't yield straight away. Sometimes you've got to have a lot of patience.
Yeah.
As you said, you started that networking early on.
Yeah, and deal with a lot of idiots. Like sometimes you go to networking events and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's so boring. Like,
is it really going to lead?
Like, it's about like, doing what you know and in that way. But I feel, networking, there's pros and cons. It works for some people, some businesses. It depends how you network and what you network with, But then my husband doesn't believe in networking. And, he's doing fine. Where I think it depends on your personality. Many factors influence that.
Well, there's different ways of networking, I think. I mean, and I think you're right. But sometimes referrals are networking because, you did a good job for someone. They liked what you did. And as a result, they were at a function and someone said, I need my house designed. And they said, without thinking, I know just the person for you.
Exactly.
Here's her number.
Exactly.
So that's an element of networking. But I wouldn't underestimate networking in business. I think it's part of your reputation.
It's essential. And brand awareness.
I think it is.
Yeah.
And you just never know when that sort of connection will be mutually valuable, right? Providing you think about it as being mutually valuable, then I think, it's an environment where people are happy to connect.
That's right.
I think if it's sort of one over another, then perhaps it's a different take.
Yeah.
How have you benefited from being a woman in business, building your business?
A woman in business? I think being relatable. So, for example, when a client comes in, I'm a mum.
Yeah.
I run a home. Yeah. So it's being relatable. So I think it's not about business. That's what they want you. When you go and purchase a product, something, you want them in any way a service, you want them to understand you. And I think that's where it comes down to, is that people tell me on social media, you're very relatable. Like, you're real, you cook, you get in the garden. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't put much on social media. I'm a very private person, very private. But the things I do give people, they're like, oh, you're like one of us. You're human,
Yeah, nice. So does that mean that most of your clients are female?
So it's interesting. Most of my clients are female who follow me, but then they tell their husbands to contact me and then they engage. So my demographic on social media, on Instagram specifically, would be women in their 35 to 50 year age gap who follow me, and then they tell their husbands about it. So you attract the wife pretty much. Not that I intend to, but
that's what happens.
That's what happens generally.
So do you think the wife places more emphasis on design of the home?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Definitely. So it's interesting. The man gets involved because what happens is the man gets involved when the money comes into play. I find that's when the decisions are made, because they don't want to get involved in the fluffy parts of things. Sometimes you get surprised. Sometimes you do get a partner that's really invested in the design.
Yeah.
But then they find the female leads the design, and then the partner steps in generally when there's big contracts, transactional, those type of things.
It's interesting though, isn't it?
Or construction on site. That's when they get involved. So they bring it, just ring the interior designer, she'll sort it out. So that's where it's interesting. You communicate with different points and, within the clients as a whole at different parts of the process.
But then, we've been talking about female clients. Shout out to Nathan Cleary, because he's one of your clients.
Yeah, all male. Yeah, he's a male client. Which is interesting. I think he's very easy to please, and he's not like, how can I say, like, he's just an easygoing guy, and he's a really nice guy, easygoing guy. So he's not, and he's not demanding in any way whatsoever. So that's been a really good experience. And he's actually, to be honest with you, I've never dealt singularly with a male client before. I've always had like a partner associated. This was the first time for me.
So was that an interesting? Yeah, was it challenging?
Yeah, it was interesting, and no, it wasn't challenging at all. No. I actually had a lot of fun with his project because he's a bit urban, so he likes he's got good taste in music. He idolizes American sports, so. I try to integrate that into his design, and you'll see that in the journey. We've got multiple rooms that we're working on, and you'll see a reveal of everything reflects him as a person, I think. Yeah.
And he's kind of a good footballer, right?
Yeah. He is very much.
I've loved watching that journey, and it'll be great to see that develop.
So we're releasing the bedroom next. In his design, which is really exciting. So, and he absolutely loved it. Like if you see his reaction, it was like just tick, 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 and that's. Like I walked away going, didn't see it as Nathan Cleary. I walked away going, my client was genuinely happy, and that was the best feeling in the world.
So we're talking about change before, right? And you bringing change in a way to a home environment, for instance. Is that an example where it sounds like to me you're able to open up sort of, some different worlds for a client, right?
Yeah.
And that must be exciting.
Yeah.
How do you stay at the forefront of design? Is there a do you look at a particular fashion show, or how do you know that colours are changing, or are you the one changing them?
I feel like, I'll be honest with you, we seek inspiration on Pinterest sometimes to kind of technicality. So for example, if we have a length of an island, we'll just like a length of a breakfast bar. We'll look on Pinterest just to kind of see how they resolve that. But to be honest with you, when it comes to texture, materiality, it's all us. Like the designs are all us. And we don't follow trends, but it might be the client that comes to us and be like, oh, I love curves because curves are in. Oh, I love arches because arches are in. So the clients might see that and want to integrate that. But I feel like very much my design style is a fusion of classical and modern. So it's kind of timeless. And I feel like that's where we then integrate what's on trend because the clients see that and want to integrate that subtly into their design.
Yeah, okay. And to what extent is your role and your services impacted by builders and architects?
So it's interesting. So builders are after us and architects are before us. So I'm actually, how I describe an interior architect, I should say, is the missing link between the architect and the builder. We're the missing link. And we're the person that communicates the design to the builder in detail. So we do all the homework for the client. We create the design, create the drawings, and the builder just prices it up and builds it. We do get referral of builders and we get referrals of architects. Architects are always great because you're working from the start. With builders, sometimes what happens is they have a system. So they might say you have to go to this supplier, that supplier, and there's provisions in place, which sometimes can make things harder than what is getting referred to from an architect. So it really varies. It varies. But you understand, everyone works, a lead is a lead, is how I see it. And, in any business sense, I think referrals work heavily. I refer clients to multiple trades and then I get builders just saying, hey, do you mind referring us? But I need to work with someone specifically first before I put my name on anything. Because obviously a referral is everything because it's a reflection of you at the end of the day. And
your reputation and what you delivered. But I'm just reflecting as I was listening to you there. I mean, you're delivering on people's dreams.
Pretty much.
We, for whatever reason, we hold our house, so high in terms of aspiration. Do you know what I mean?
Your home is your castle. And
it is,
no matter
isn't it?
Your home or your bedroom, like let's just say someone's living with their parents. Or, your home is, it's everything. I feel like it's the way a family operates, and the thing is with my industry, you probably don't know this, but have a guess, when a lead comes to me, have a guess how long I see a finished product.
Oh, I've got no idea. I imagine it's quite lengthy, but...
Have an estimation.
12 months maybe.
Keep going.
Oh, really? Really? 2 years?
Keep going.
Really? 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 3 years?
Keep going.
Really?
So from a lead to come to me to a full circle construction complete, I'd say by the time they go through design phase in council, 4 years.
Yeah, it's
on
huge.
average.
Yeah.
Now you imagine in my industry, you're working on a project for 4 years and you don't see the finished result or you don't see a client's reaction until 4 years' time. It's a long time to self-reflect on your work.
It's amazing.
So you have to learn to not to psychologically get to you as well. Because so for example, they say, like my best friend's a psychologist and she said to me, a garbo has the most satisfying job because as they're picking up rubbish and they're delivering rubbish every day, they're getting that satisfaction of a completed project.
Done.
4 years is a long time to wait for a completion for a full cycle in your work. Like I just feel like it can mentally affect you sometimes.
It's huge.
Yeah.
So do you find yourself counselling your clients in that respect? Like do they lose faith?
No. So I think they don't realise the process of it. So council can sometimes take up to 9 months just for approval.
Yeah.
So they generally come to me when they pre-submit to council. So that's what the whole journey is. And some clients, you know, I see myself as a mediator because they come to me to prevent divorce because they're like, oh my God, I don't know what she wants. She's bloody driving me mental. And then she's like, he doesn't listen to me, you know, and that's where, you know, I'll come into.
Hey, back in your corner.
Yeah. No, and I'll come in as a mediator.
Yeah.
So how I see it, when a partner, husband and wife come into, whatever it is, you know, anyone in a relationship comes to me, my job is strategically to ensure I listen to both parties and to blend their ideas together.
Yeah.
So I actually do act as a mediator because I have to sometimes shut down the ideas that the husband's very strong about, that the wife does not want, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But then she might want, so it's kind of like understanding both. I've got 2 clients at once.
Yeah.
That I have to, you know.
Meld together.
So when you think about Nathan Cleary was really easy because it was one-man band.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good.
But my favourite jobs are commercial projects. I love residential. I love commercial too.
Well, I was going to ask you about commercial. Actually, that's my next question because I was reflecting on that and thinking, but hold on, there's a whole another market, isn't there?
There is.
Why are commercial your favourite jobs and to what extent are you in that market?
So I do a lot of salons, restaurants, anything commercial, office spaces, real estate agents, dentists, you name it.
Yeah.
There's nothing more I love than telling the story. So right down from understanding how the business works to the brand, to the social media, to the website, it all tells a story. And I think even right down to like, you know, the smell and the scent of an interior of an office space can reflect their brand.
Wow.
So I always encourage my clients to think of everything overall. So we recently did Melissa Peters' Beauty in Penrith.
Yes.
She's created her own scent. She has her own beauty line. And this is the thing where she'd tell a story in like her website and everything and even her uniforms reflects the brand. And I love that. I love telling a story through a brand.
But that's very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like we value businesses and value brands and value IP. And brands are no longer, I mean, I think they used to be very one-dimensional, pictures on a page, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, lights on a billboard. But the way you've described that brand, for instance, it's dynamic in every shape or form.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's like a holistic thing. I'd see it as like through every avenue. I believe that businesses now need to be on brand awareness because social media is the essence of every business now too. And I think marketing, people need aesthetic. So interior design actually boomed when social media came into play. It's because now people see what other people are doing, so the expectations are higher.
Yeah.
So, for example, if a hairdresser came in and just opened their business and it's just, how can I say, an old school salon where a little bit of thought has gone into it but not much, they probably would do okay. However, if they invested in us, any business, compared to their competitor, and they invested in us and they told a story through their whole brand, I do see results.
Yeah.
Because what it happens is you build social engagement because the interior is so good. So people come in and want to take photos of the interior And it kind of like, that's marketing on its own.
Yeah.
And you want to create social zones within the interior. So always make sure, you know, anyone that comes in the space wants to photograph it or wants to tell a story that they're there at that moment and that point in time. So there's a lot into it.
See, that's a big responsibility for business, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? And particularly in workplaces that are rapidly changing as a result of the whole, you know, post-COVID situation around, well, what should a workplace be, and how do I want my staff and my customers and my suppliers and my stakeholders to interact with me?
Yeah.
And you know, here's your business sitting on the sidelines of that saying, you know, well, actually, we can help coordinate that. We can help match that with your reputation, your brand.
Yeah.
So that's a big market for you. Is the commercial space a new space for you?
No, I've always done it. It's actually maybe 20% of my business, where we specialise in luxury home design.
Yeah.
That's our bread and butter. Commercial designs are great, but the issue you face with commercial designs, like for example, if a shop is in a shopping centre, you just face so many, like there's so much red tape.
Restrictions around what you can do.
In that way. But I think I love the concept development when it comes to commercial design. I love creating concepts and ideas. The schematics phase, what we call it. But then the execution, you know, I put things in place when my team then does all the drawings. They deal with, for example, retail design managers. They, you know, and I oversee everything, but the schematics phase I'm really heavily involved in. Yeah. Really heavily.
Yeah. Oh, no. And I can see how you can add a lot of value because things are ultra competitive. And so, as you say, brand is no longer a flat piece.
No, not anymore.
You know, it's vital. And
a startup of any business is just like if you have bricks and mortar, like a retail space of a startup, like 45% increase in construction. Right? You've got rent increases, you've got overhead increases. To start a business now with bricks and mortar is so hard. Yeah. And that's why I can see the decline in commercial because not many people are doing this because of the overheads
the cost,
involved. Yeah. It's I think they can't do it now for, I'd say, under 50,000 anymore, bricks and mortar. They need, there's a lot more to it.
It's a significant outlay up front.
Yeah,
but I think what you're hinting at is, you need to look at the broader picture, not just the bricks and mortar, but the whole box and dice.
Yeah.
Because you might get a better investment by thinking at that whole
And I
picture.
see it. Like we did LaBelle Cosmetics in Bella Vista, and their space is so beautiful that they get people coming in, influencers with many, many, followers. And that's marketing on its own.
Yeah.
So they've done an incredible job. They have invested really decent amount of money into their fit out and it really pays off. So I think, and you can do an interior, if you don't have much money, you can still create a great interior. The only issue is it's the trades that cost money. It's, that's the problem. Yeah, in that way.
That's good. How long has your business been going, Alicia?
I'd say now we're in almost 10 years.
10 years, so a decade.
But I started off as like a one-man band.
Well, with Barbie.
Yeah.
Before that, so there was a period, of soul activity, and then it sort of grown and grown.
Yes.
And challenges, I imagine, and opportunities, and
yes,
some great wins along the way.
Yeah.
If you reflect back though on that period, and you're still on a big journey, what are three things that now, sitting here, knowing what you know, what are three things that you might have done differently, do you think?
When I created my studio, I designed my studio to have 4 designer spaces.
Yeah.
I didn't realise at the time that I'd need a lot more than that. So what I did wrong was I didn't think I'd get as big as what I am today. So I didn't account for rapid growth.
So you surprised yourself, right?
I surprised myself. So it took me a while to build this studio. And once I built it, I was already too small for it.
Yeah, right.
So that's where I didn't prepare myself for rapid growth. And I think any business needs to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next thing is, obviously we spoke about before, is just not being used in any business. I think just knowing how to read between the lines.
Knowing your boundaries.
Giving and taking. And knowing your boundaries.
Yeah.
The next thing is, I think, we've spoken again, it's work-life balance. So being able to disconnect from work and give all my attention to my family. So when I'm at work, I give 100%. And when I'm with my family, I give 100%. Yeah. And being able to separate, because it was exhausting trying to give 200% wherever I went, So I had to learn to, disconnect. So I think they're things I've taught myself over the years. Yeah. But I think any business can relate to that.
I think very, very definitely.
Yeah.
And what's been your most sort of satisfying job, client experience, do you think? Is there one that particularly stands out?
There's too many.
There's too many?
There's too many. Like one job that I really love, and the reason is because it's locally, is the Kalina estate we designed at Cranebrook.
Yes.
Absolutely beautiful estate.
Yeah.
And I think because it's not your standard cookie cutter, what everyone wants. So, for example, you come in where these clients wanted something a little bit more, out of the ordinary. Yeah. And I love that. I love when the client comes and wants something out of the ordinary. And
does that situation, does that put you in a real, do you ever feel vulnerable in that sense? In other words, oh God, how am I going to deliver to what the spec here? They want something and it's so different and so unique.
Oh, I love it.
But
bring it on.
But do you ever feel, have I got the capability? How am I going to pull that together?
The hardest thing is when their budget's not there. So they want all this big list, but their budget's not there. That is the most challenging thing of all.
Yeah.
But I love when they come to me and they're like, oh, I want a colour. I want my kitchen just to be like pink. Like, oh, yes. That's what inspires me, because I challenge myself out of my comfort zone and it makes me a better designer. Yeah. And my jobs just get better and better because I challenge, for example, my staff will create something and I'll be like, nah, needs more. Just keep giving it, until what their budget can allow.
So the goalposts keep rising.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
and my designs get better and better and better.
Yeah, but that's an internal thing, isn't it? Within you, as you've described it. And not everyone's got that. I see it in business. It's a key attribute to a business that's not just an A business, but always an A+ business. It's like, well, that was good enough for that client that day, but the next client that wants a similar thing, no, actually, we need to go a bit better. We need to find a way of delivering it slightly differently. Mm-hmm. So that's a challenge. It's almost like you've got that internal challenge, which you then replicate across the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My team get really annoyed with me.
I was going to say.
There was a job, we were doing a home in Canberra and we got halfway through, we were up to detailed drawings and the client sat with me and I could feel it that they were 98% on the design. We changed the whole kitchen in that meeting. And it cost my team hours and, we didn't have the capacity of time, but I could feel that my clients were only 98%. And I could not end the meeting knowing that I only gave them 98%.
Yeah, you wanted to deliver the whole
I need 110%, so I need that's why I pushed myself and I changed the whole kitchen design.
So let us into the secret about how you manage your team in that environment, because on the one side, once you get through it and deliver to the 110%, I'm sure the team would be all happy. But it's getting through that uncomfortable process, isn't it? It's tricky, right? I imagine.
Definitely. Yeah. I think, with my team, I think it's about my teams all start off, two of my team members are out of uni. So they're about 2 to 3 years in. And obviously they're still, we went through teething stages, but they're at a point now where they can be independently working. And sometimes they come to me, I'm like, nah, push it harder. So I think because I'm always challenging them to go out and find inspiration, seek, and then to push themselves harder, that's also educating them to push their limits too. Yeah. Because no one's coming to me for a cookie cutter. They can just go to a joinery for that.
Yeah, they can be done with.
Yeah. And that's what, if I look at it and go, it's boring, no, do it again. So I feel like that's where, and someone told me that once, they're like, Alicia, I always said, nah, she can't get better. She goes, when I see you work on social media, no, she can't get better than that. There's no way. She goes, then you bloody do. You shock me. And then you know what I mean? And that's why I'm like, nah, just better and better and better. Keep going.
Keep stretching the boundaries.
Keep stretching. But with that comes stretch of budgets when the designs get better. But I think you can still, so obviously from when I started off to where I am now, our clients have rapidly changed demographic. So, for example, now, we'd start on a home project, maybe 1.5 starting point. But 1.5 on a new home build gives you a standard house. I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't even say 1.5 anymore. That's probably pre-COVID. I'd probably say now 2.5 is the starting point.
Yeah.
And then we can work, you should see this house we're working at the moment. It's breathtaking. I'd probably say it's over a $10 million build.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's phenomenal. So,
and what are you doing for that build?
So we were referred by our architects for this one. 2-story library, indoor swimming pool. It's like your full shebang.
I thought reading had gone out of vogue.
No.
2-story library.
2-story library. And our clients are Chinese background. So that was amazing too, because I loved integrating an Oriental fusion into the design.
Very interesting. Yeah?
So that's what's challenging me now, because I'm like, it's a fusion of Western meets Oriental cultures coming together. For example, they had a rumpus room with just lounges. And then as the design progressed, I'm like, let's do a bar. And as the design progressed, now we've got a karaoke bar in this space, So it's kind of like me understanding my client and kind of being like, all right, well, let's take it to a new level. So once I go to know my client more and more, I'm able to provide the most incredible design to them.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
You're a Western Sydney girl at heart.
I am. I am a Westie.
Yeah.
I am. Born and bred.
But no boundaries, because you're now servicing a client in Perth, and you do Melbourne, and you do Eastern Sydney and all over the place. And
absolute luxury
Canberra
homes
and what have you.
Yeah.
What about Western Sydney though, right? I'm interested to know your outlook for Western Sydney, because, there's this New Butte airport happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other developments, infrastructure, roads, businesses, people relocating, demographics changing. Mm-hmm. What do you see in the next 5 years for your business, but also for other businesses in the Greater West?
It's the ground shaking.
Yeah, it is.
And you can see, for example, businesses coming out here investing in their businesses out here. Like, for example, I'm really good friends with Percy Plunkett, Phil from Percy Plunkett.
Phil. Yeah.
And he's doing phenomenal things out here.
6 years old, Percy Plunkett.
Yeah,
Shout out to Phil and the team.
Yeah, Phil and Aisha, amazing, hardworking people. But it's the experiences, and that what I'm finding is it's the cosmopolitan experience that like my business provides, like they provide, or like Melissa Peters Beauty provides. It's people are craving more than what Penrith had to offer.
Yeah.
They're craving, and it's about taking risks and bringing businesses here to push the boundaries to, for example, someone could open a bar, but they don't go through an interior designer and they just open a bar just off opening the bar. They're probably not going to do as well as someone who had an interior designer who put thought and process into it.
Well, that's an interesting analogy, right? The bar analogy, because it's almost like, listen, Mr. Bar owner, you've got the potential of servicing one market or another market. And in part, it's how you design your offering.
100%.
Right? Because you can service the market that's always been there, and that's this big. Or you can look to capture a broader market. But you have to design the full offering, including the interior design, to meet that offering, so that, you're going to get the patrons.
So the problem is a lot of people have this mentality, I can do it myself. And you don't know how many calls we get because of the people with that mentality, I can do it myself, when they call me when it's too late.
Yeah.
So I come in with a Band-Aid, with like an ambulance, stitching up, Band-Aids. I'm like, oh, that looks so shit. Like I'll go on site going, how am I going to fix this again? But can I be honest with you? I don't enjoy those jobs, because it's not, I'm fixing people's mistakes, where I prefer to come with me and we'll tell a story together. Not you write the story and I'm coming as an editor at the end. So
that's good.
Yeah, and that's, to be honest with you, I used to do that quite a bit because we've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you
But
have.
now I can be selective. And if someone comes to me in that position, there has to be something in me that wants to sign on that job.
Wants to add value there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, what about a young designer? Male or female?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guess out of TAFE, out of uni, out of school.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what you know now, if they're looking to go into business eventually, what would you advise them?
Intern. Learn the ropes first. So a lot of this generation, I think we'll talk about this in the panel.
Yeah,
a lot of this generation, it's I want it now generation. It's the instant gratification. Like, I want to be a manager of a design firm as soon as I come out of TAFE. It's that mentality. So you've got to climb the ladder to get to the top. And I feel like that society, unfortunately, social media plays a big part in that, in, affecting the mentality of, the instant gratification.
Yes.
Where I feel like that's the advice I give. Learn first as much as you can. Work for free. Get out there, do what you have to do, climb the ropes.
Yeah.
Start from the bottom and climb your way like I did, and like I feel like a lot of business owners would have done too, is climbing the ladder, climbing the ropes.
Yeah. No, I love that. Get your experience.
Yeah, it's everything. Because the things you learn at uni, to be honest with you, most of my staff always tell me, Alicia, I did not learn from uni. I learned from you being under your wing, or that's where you do most of the practicality, the brunt of the work. I think any industry is like that, right?
Yeah.
It's like a chef could learn something in TAFE and then they go into a restaurant and because I have different processes of how we do things to how they learning in uni. So I have to it's like they've got to come and relearn everything again here.
Well, I think it's, nothing against unis, but they've got to be broad brush by nature, right? Because they just don't know where the end student's going in their vocation post-uni. Where in a down and dirty role, you got to get down and dirty and do the thing.
That's
right.
So what's interesting, when I come out of TAFE, I didn't know how a kitchen went together.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to design a detail of a kitchen. Then I didn't know how to do a floor plan properly. So it's interesting. I then went and worked in an architectural firm where I didn't do interior design because, let's be realistic, it wasn't a thing back then. There was very, very hard to get work. So I was a draftsman and I used to just design, homes.
Yeah.
And then when I had enough of that job, I went over to learn how to do joinery. So I learned how kitchens go together, and I used to do drawings and colours and stuff for clients. But what's interesting now is that what I've learned from 2 practical jobs, I now can actually train my staff on.
But I think that's a really interesting journey that you've just enlightened us on. In the context of that question before about what would you tell a young person? Because, your experience indicates that you haven't just stayed in the one lane. You might have focused on the one lane, but you've sought to get experience on the things that might impact that lane over a period in order to perfect your business. And so, sometimes I think, we do a uni degree on X, we want to do X. If we can't do X, the world ends.
But what about if you could do X mixed with M and Z at the same time?
Yeah, exactly.
So for example, if someone's in high school and they know they want to be an interior designer, I would say to that person, go to year 12, but in your spare time, go and do like a TAFE course, or a short course. Get as much knowledge as you can to achieve your goal. And then, you kind of, you can take credits off if you for example, if you know what I mean? Like, take a shortcut. Or not take a shortcut, just learn as much as you can and build your knowledge. And I believe in that. So, for example, if you want to be a chef, well, obviously go and get a job in a restaurant,
But people watching this might say, but Alicia, it's all very well for you. You knew what you wanted to do.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that like...
See, I was gifted I'm not going to say gifted, I was blessed to know that I wanted to do this from a young age, where I know some people it doesn't happen to them. So my advice would be is to, exactly, go and ring up someplace and say, hey, can I come and do some work experience for 2 weeks with you? Can I go do some work experience? See what I actually had a family friend's daughter of mine come and do 2 weeks with us, and she decided, I don't want to be in office. So she's now in beauty. But what I'm saying, if she didn't do it here, she probably would have made the wrong decision.
See, I think that's interesting. In a way, someone that knows what they want to do from a very young age, post-Barbie, it's almost a situation where, you know, the risk is you can put a lot of pressure on yourself, right? Because that's what I want to do. And so that's what I'm angling for.
Yeah.
And you're still on the journey, but you've delivered, right? But there's a lot of pressure to oneself. Someone that doesn't know what they want to do, but they've got a bit of an idea of the sort of areas of interest, I think, as you've kind of indicated, be a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah.
Be willing to try and experiment and taste and see, you know. And
that comes down to the internship. Go out there and be vulnerable. Put yourself out there. Work from the ground up, you know. So another advice, for example, okay, so every business needs a photographer, right, of some sort. So go and do a photography course, and, you know, and that way when you go to have your resume, you've got more credentials that you could bring to the business opposed to the person next to you.
Yeah.
So in that way, you know, or go and really learn how to use social media, or bring something to the table that differentiates you from the person next to you.
Yeah, very, very, very apt.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll be careful about photographers. We've got videographers here. They're difficult people. Yeah, I think they're looking.
I'm not as good as them. I pretend to be, but I'm not.
Yeah, look, I'm not. They make me look good sometimes. Mother's Day's coming up.
Yes, it is.
Now you're a mum.
Yes, I'm a mum.
Why should we celebrate Mother's Day?
I think because we work bloody hard.
Mums?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
we do it all. Like you know, this is a week in the life for me. It's running a business, then dropping off and picking up school, taking them to sport, cooking dinner, cleaning my house, doing the washing, making sure their homework's done. Make sure you keep up with your social, whatever need be. Making sure that, you know, your staff are happy, that everything's happy. And then you find time for yourself in amongst that, you know, like
over a glass of water and a podcast.
Yeah, that's it. And I think, like, you know, and like my mum, like, you know, my mum does a lot for me, and I think it's just about appreciating what your mums do for you.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
And in that regard, are there more mums that should look at going into business? Do you think?
I wouldn't say no, because I'd say it's not for everyone. Business is not for everyone. See, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think if I had the personality I did, I probably wouldn't have survived. No. Because I know some people where businesses get a bit hard and the struggles there, and they can't handle the pressure. Or I know another one where, you know, someone was copying everything they did, and it was affecting them so much that it was affecting their, you know, the way they were doing things in their own business. So I feel like if you have a gift and you feel like you can really sell that gift, go for it. But sometimes you live a more simple life, just going to work, doing what you do well, and then going home. Yeah. But I think you have to be able to take the extra mile. To be an entrepreneur, you've got to be able to, like, do the extra mile and handle the extra mile. Because I don't think it's not for everyone. And
you've sort of suggested there's benefits, but there's also sacrifices and ways you need to manage that.
And I'm being really vulnerable now. Like, there's been so many points where I've doubted and said, am I doing the right thing? Yeah. Like, should I just go work for someone else? You know, I'd live a less, you know, business is stressful. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't stress.
No, of course.
You know, or any business, we have worries, we have, you know, and that's where I've been really vulnerable now, is that sometimes you really have to think about it. And with a business, when you're going to invest, you have to be willing to, in the beginning, the teething, you've got to work overtime. You've got to really cut costs where you can. So you've got to put yourself out there more. You've got to be able to sell your mind, body and soul for a good 2 years I feel like, personally. Yeah. I personally feel like. It might be wrong.
Well, it's your experience.
Yeah.
And Alicia, I just want to say you're passionate. I can feel it.
Aww.
The ground moved. No, seriously. I mean, you're a passionate Western Sydney homegrown leader.
Yeah.
You're a mum, you're a business owner, you're building a very successful business.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And it's such a pleasure to have you on the Let's Talk Business podcast. I really appreciate you joining us.
Oh, I've loved being here. It was great.
In your studio.
We dwelled on so many topics. It was phenomenal. It was just like, I was really raw today. You've got to, I think everyone will see a very different side to me than what they used to.
I think they see Alicia.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you.
Really good.
James.
That was Alicia in a studio, in a habitat. What a design business. What a lady. And, if you're in business, in the community, across Western Sydney, anywhere in Sydney, frankly, you should be proud of this young business owner and mum. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to this podcast and follow us on Instagram at JamesC_Price. And if you're up for improving your business, gaining access to knowledge, insights, our team and consultations, join our online membership portal. Visit jpabusiness.com.au.